Greetings everybody, this is Serpentine451 here, back with another video. This time a top 10 list. It's the top 10 list my buddy Jay has been waiting for since I keep putting it off. And here it is, my top 10 favorite musical numbers from every musical that I've seen of all time. Now, this list will be different from any other musical list that you might find here on YouTube. That means I'm including musical numbers from not only animated films that actually have musical numbers within them that are counted as musicals, I'm also including stage musicals. I'm including films that are musicals. I'm also counting technically vaudeville shows as well, since two shows that I really love actually came from vaudeville. So, technically one, because I might as well mention this as my honorable mention, since I'm also including honorable mentions from each of the shows that I will be including from the list when I talk about those particular lists. But here is the song that is an honorable mention for the list itself. It is known as the Cell Block Tango from Chicago. Now, the reason why I like this song in particular is because the show Chicago itself sets itself apart from any other vaudeville show interpretation that I have seen, and plus, it's shot beautifully. But this musical number is all about the women of the prison singing about the crimes they have committed, and that it was those who forced them to do the crimes that are actually at fault, not them. There's actually one who is innocent, and lines that say he had it coming. You're the only one who's self-to-blame. If you were been there, if you'd seen it, you bet you would have done the same. Or, I bet you would have done the same. Sorry for saying the line wrong. And it's actually very interesting. In the Song of a Tango, and plus, tango is one of my favorite ballroom styles. And there's another tango song on the list. When we get to that, I will mention it. So let's begin with an opening number. With every good musical, there should be an opening number. And the number that I chose in particular is Deliver Us from The Prince of Egypt. This DreamWorks animated film, made during the Disney Renaissance, when Disney and DreamWorks were in competition with each other to see who had the better films, I think The Prince of Egypt was actually a very well-made musical. And those who have written it's no contest why that is. It's because it's from the people who wrote the music for Wicked, which is also very good and also has a place on the list. And you'll wait until I mention that as the list goes on. So, in particular, why do I like Deliver Us? Well, it is a good opening piece, as all opening pieces should be. It should be grand, majestic, and actually paint the scene for us. Since this is a telling of the story of Moses from the Bible, they took a lot of interesting liberties with it. And having a song that basically is from the perspective of Moses when he's going down the Nile to be raised by the current Pharaoh and his family, and it's sung from the perspective of the Jews who are persecuted in the Bible by the Egyptians. Saying lines from Deliver Us, what was it? Deliver us from our descent, deliver us to the promised land. Lines like that, and then you have songs that are connected to Moses, saying, hush now my baby, sleep now don't cry, sleep as you rocked by the stream, sleep as you remember my last lullaby, so I'll be with you in my dreams. That is very beautiful. And plus, there is a metal version of the song that I really enjoy by Jonathan Young and a friend of his, Caleb Hayes, that I like to listen to pretty much all the time. But that's enough about Deliver Us. I think I've said enough of it. But my favorite pieces, there's technically only one that I like. It's The Plagues from The Prince of Egypt. It would have gotten a place on the list, but since it's kind of a short song, I want to go with a song that's a bit longer in scope and in actual music time. So now let's go to Dentist from Little Shop of Horrors. Yes, this is more of the stage than the actual film, because the film's ending just makes me cringe. I don't know why they decided to take a happy ending route instead of the actual bleak ending of the actual musical, but I digress. Dentist is technically a villain song, but the true villain song goes to Audrey too. But this is a good song altogether, talking about Audrey's current squeeze at the moment, the dentist, how he sings about how much he loves inflicting pain on others and how this is the career that he picked. And when he says he's extracting those molars, the girls will be rolling like holy rollers. Well, screaming like holy rollers. And he does this because his mother saw him becoming a dentist. And he's only living up to the needs of the goal that his mother set out for him. And fun fact, when I was in high school, I was actually in a production of Little Shop of Horrors. Even though I played a bit role, I enjoyed the song, even from that time. And some of the songs that I like, that are honorable mentions in the place of Dentist, if I were to choose them make the list different, Suddenly Seymour comes to mind, Skid Row comes to mind. The final song at the end of the musical, I forgot what it was called, but it was great song as well. But based on that, the memory that I have of this song and the character that I played was all great and good. Next up on the list is My Eyes from Dr. Horrible Sing-Along blog. Now, when I first came across this particular musical, it was split into 3 episodes. My uncle introduced me to it because it was created by Joss Whedon, and Joss Whedon barely makes any musicals except for the Buffy musical episode, which I should have added to the list because Standing is a good song, but I digress. My Eyes is interesting because it's the duet of the piece, and with this particular duet, it's our titular villain, Dr. Horrible, and his particular love interest, basically singing about their opposing ideologies, and how the world is cruel and unforgiving, and evil is inside of Dr. Horrible, whereas Penny talks about everything that's good in the world, and how her eyes are seeing nothing but positives. And the two of them, when they actually sing together, when he say the darkness, when he says the darkness inside of him and the rapture inside of her at the end of the song, it's perfection. And plus, Neil Patrick Harris and Felicia Day singing together is just amazing. And then you have the songs, basically the entire musical is great. Split into 3 different episodes. The Bad Horse interludes are funny. What was the song? Brand New Day. A Man's Gotta Do is a good song. And also some of the opening pieces are great. And the end song is actually quite good. And that's brilliant. Next up on the list is SOS from Mamma Mia. Since this is a musical primarily focusing on the music of ABBA, SOS is a very interesting song for me, since in the story, one of the fathers of our female lead and her mother basically sing to each other. And I really like this choice because the original stage production I enjoy, and Pierce Brosnan's film version is actually quite funny because he's not that great of a singer. But the song itself, saying, "We're all those happy days, they seem so hard to find. I try to reach for you, but you've closed your mind." It's basically 2 lovers trying to talk to each other, trying to rekindle something they had in the past. And given the fact that the story is primarily 3 potential fathers trying to give away, the story itself is the mother's daughter, who's getting married, is looking for her father to give her away because that's her end goal, and she has 3 potential fathers. And I love this song just musically, and Does Your Mother Know That You're Out is one of the honorable mentions, and Dancing Queen is also a good honorable mention for this particular track, but I chose SOS because that's my favorite of the bunch. Next up is the Tango song I was referring to in the main list honorable mention, that being Tango Maureen from Rent. Now, Rent for me is a very interesting situation because a friend of mine introduced me to this musical because he was a big fan of it at the time. This was back when I was in high school. So with Tango Maureen, I fell in love with it instantly. And when you have the song basically starts when these two characters are performing a mic check, and it's a former lover, the man in the case, Mark, and the current lover, Maureen, a woman, and it's about them basically talking about Maureen, one of the characters in the show. So when you have Mark saying, got a fire on your brain and you're feeling like drinking like gasoline, and then she retorts, as a matter of fact, and Mark goes, honey, I know this act. It's called the Tango Maureen. The Tango Maureen, it's a dark, dizzy merry-go-round. As she keeps you dangling, your heart she is mangling. So Mark has some resentment towards the fact that this new love interest for Maureen has no real idea of the circumstances behind Maureen's personal faults. And it's an interesting thing to go by, and I love the sound, like the musical accompaniment of this with this song in particular. I also find enjoyable, and this is from the film version mostly. And I love the cinematography for the song from the movie version because it just shows how much life and energy tango should present, and how the song itself is presented. I just enjoy it. And then we have the honorable mentions from Rent itself if Tango Maureen wasn't on the list. Seasons of Love would definitely be on the list if I didn't choose Tango Maureen, and Santa Fe is also another good choice. Also, a lot of the songs from Rent are good, if memory best serves me. Next up, we have Hellfire from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now, this is the proper villain song. I mentioned that I was going to be doing 2 animated films that would have been on my list. Hellfire is the second one, it being the Disney film and from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which has a lot of good music in it. Like God Loves the Outcasts, Hellfire, for example, The Carnival of Fools. Everything from this musical is brilliant. And with Hellfire, it's personified by the singer, Judge Claude Frollo, who is interpreted from his book counterpart to be a very maniacal villain in the sense that he is twisted by his desires and lust for Esmeralda, and he's fighting and struggling with those innermost needs, calling out the Virgin Mary for help. Beata Maria, I know I am a righteous man. Of my virtue I am justly proud. Those lines are very telling for a man like Frollo. And then you have him saying, protect me, Maria, don't let the siren cast a spell. Don't let the siren... Don't let her... What was it? Don't let her fire see my flesh and bone. Destroy Esmeralda and take her... Forget about it. I am misquoting a lot of these songs. I'm sorry if I'm doing so. It's kind of hard when you're trying to recall the songs from memory here. But anyway, Hellfire is a beautiful song. And with other than songs that I mentioned, there was no way that those songs were going to just outbeat Hellfire, in my honest opinion. And on to the list, we have Gold from Repo, the Genetic Opera. Now this is another villain song that I enjoy, sung by Rotti Largo. And this is particularly interesting because Repo I was introduced to in high school yet again. And also another great vaudeville show like Chicago is. Because Repo started as a vaudeville production, but was made into a film by the director of Saw, which is very interesting. And with this song in particular, Rotti's talking about how his children are nothing but monsters and degenerates, lines from the song itself, and how they would waste every cent of his gold since he runs a corporation where this is in the world of Repo, the Genetic Opera, it's a world where basically the healthiest people can gain organs and such when they actually go to Rotti's corporation. And if they don't, they are killed by the Repo Men. In the most gory of fashions, by the way. And Anthony Stewart Head is also playing the titular main character of one of the Repo Men, and it's actually very cool and fitting. And Rotti's he describes how he would leave everything to Anthony character's daughter, Anthony's character's daughter Shiloh, which that was his angle because he loved Rati himself loved Shiloh's mother. And it's this song in particular that, plus it's sung by an opera singer, which is very cool and very fitting for a character like this. And plus, it's musically it's beautiful, even though it's sung by a man who is very greedy and on the verge of death. Anyway, then Chase the Morning is a good song if I chose not to do it. Legal Assassin is great because it was the one song that got me introduced to Repo the Genetic Opera. Mark It Up is great. In fact, a lot of the songs from Repo the Genetic Opera are great. People should really check out Repo the Genetic Opera. Anyway, so number 3 is As Long As You're Mine from Wicked. Now, this being my third favorite musical number of all time, it's given the fact that I have a lot of connection to the song in particular. This is because I saw Wicked on stage, since I live in Oregon, at the Keller Auditorium in Portland. Twice, in fact, and it's a beautiful show. Even though it's based off of a book that's written from the perspective of the Wicked Witch of the West, and giving her a little bit of backstory. But As Long As Your Mind's sung from the perspective of Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, and her main squeeze, the man who would later become the Scarecrow. And it's talking about them since they met at school, and since their lives went to diverging paths. He became a soldier connected to the wizard. She became a rebellious figure to free all the animals. And it's basically them professing their love to each other while in the middle of a rainstorm. And with him saying, I may be brainless, I may not be wise, is also very fitting. And Elphaba herself is saying she must be dreaming, that this cannot be real. And her cheeky line at the end of the song, she finally feels wicked for the first time because of this particular love interest, because she had the hots for him when they were younger, but he only had eyes for Galinda, because that's what was pretty much expected of him. And then you have Defying, and the honorable mentions it's Dancing Through Life, which is one of my favorite songs of all time, especially in this musical. And also Defying Gravity is really great. Wonderful is also a really good song, and Sentimental Man is hauntingly beautiful in a way. And I say hauntingly beautiful because it's sung from the perspective of the wizard talking to Elphaba. And he thinks that sentimentality is what ruined everything. But As Long As Your Mind is a beautifully sung duet. It is a beautiful song in its own right. And it is my third favorite musical number of all time. Number 2 is Wait For It from Hamilton. Now, initially, I started making this list with Hamilton in mind, and this song in particular in mind. It's sung from the perspective of Aaron Burr, and how he... Basically, it's a song that talks about his life. Since this is a historical musical, embellishing a few things from actual history, mind you, but technically it's a historical musical. He talks about his own life and how he starts the song by saying that he's in love with a woman named Theodosia, and how she writes him letters every day, and Aaron Burr keeps her bed warm while her husband is away. And then you have lines like, Hamilton's pace is relentless, he wastes no time, and then you have lines like, the holidays and hymns won't teach you, referencing his grandfather, and how he looks up to his mother and father, and when they left him behind when they passed away, and they only left behind a legacy to protect, in order for him to protect. It's just this man talking to himself, essentially, basically finding enough gumption in his life to fight back, to oppose the ever-rising climb that Hamilton, his rival, is seeming to head for. And then there are the songs that, if Wait For It didn't make the list, they would have been satisfied or frankly, any song by Thomas Jefferson in the musical, because those songs are great. And then you have anything from King George, that is also quite hilarious. And then Right Hand Man's also a really good song. But Wait For It, to me, I love it because it is a song that spoke to me. It's a song that talks about a philosophy that one man has. Patience will rule over those who will rush into things too rashly. But it also is a cautionary tale for those who wait too long, because life might pass you by. Hence the title of the song, Wait For It. Waiting for an opportunity is great, but if an opportunity passes you by because you're waiting for something else, what do you have to live for? And then my all-time favorite song from any musical, this is my favorite musical number of all time, One Night Only, from the musical Dreamgirls. Now this is talking about another interesting aspect of history, even though they're embellishing a few things and making it more separate. It talks about Motown and how the Dreams themselves, the fictional versions of the Rockettes, which was another musical group that was very prominent and actually has a lot of allusions to some of the great acts during the 1960s, the 50s, into the 70s. It's all very great and interesting, but One Night Only is my favorite song, one of my favorite musical numbers of all time, and Dreamgirls being my favorite musical of all time. But what's the reason? Why do I like this song so much? Well, I saw Dreamgirls when I was in high school in a choir course that I took for all 4 years. And I just fell in love with the music of this time. I love the songs in this film in particular. And also, One Night Only is a song basically sung from the perspective of one of the former Dreams who was a bit overweight, who was dating the music producer for their record label. And when she found out she was pregnant, she ended up raising her daughter when she was kicked out of the group. And when she went to her brother for assistance to actually write and produce a song, she chose her brother wrote One Night Only. And this song is so beautiful. Saying things like, you want my love and my love, you want my love, you want my love and my devotion, you want my loving soul right on the line. I have no doubt that I will love you forever. The only trouble is, you really don't have the time. Lines like that just do it for me. And it's a very beautiful song. And then you have moments like, we don't want this feeling to be gone, it has no chance going on. Something so right has no chance to live. So let's forget about chances. It's one night that we have to live. One night only, one night only. You have to be, I keep forgetting, but I love this song. And it's so powerful, especially when Jennifer Hudson sings this song, because Jennifer Hudson plays the character within the piece. And her belting this song out is just fucking amazing. Props to Jennifer Hudson, props to the musical staff. The disco version that had since being obviously also starring in the film was also quite enjoyable, also quite amusing. But also a lot of the songs, in fact all of the songs are brilliant because you have a lot of great singers, you have a lot of great actors just performing all the songs in this musical. It is that damn good. I love it. So that ends my list. What did you guys think of it? Leave a like, comment, subscribe, let me know. So this has been Serpentine451. I know this video has been a bit long. I have rambled on a bit, but that's the nature of my personality. That's the nature of how my videos are done. I wish I could have done things a bit more professionally, but hey, I don't really give a shit. So I will see you next time.